Welcome to BL Stories, where romance, drama, and unforgettable boys' love come to life. Love knows no limits, and the best stories aren't always straight. Subscribe now and join our growing BL-loving family. Alex's POV. "I'm not sure if we're celebrating or mourning here," Joan muttered as she poured another round of shots for the table. "I'm still trying to figure out how you even landed this job," Derek added with a skeptical look. I gave them both a shrug, still processing everything that had happened today. A promotion? More like being thrown into the lion's den. I mean, the guy hasn't had an assistant last longer than a few weeks. What happens if it doesn't work out for you? Do you go back to your IT job? Or is this one of those, there's no coming back from this situation? You don't think he'd really fire him just like that, do you? Joan asked, her brow furrowing. Both of them turned to me, expecting answers. I gave another tired shrug. "You're awfully quiet tonight," Derek observed. "I think he's still trying to wrap his head around it," Joan answered for me. I nodded slowly. My thoughts were spinning. I still couldn't believe it. I was now working directly for Christian Ivanov. Yes, that Christian Ivanov. Technically, I already worked under his company, but this was different. A whole new level. More responsibility, more pressure. My thoughts were interrupted by the vibration of my phone. I reached into my pocket to check the caller ID, and just like that, whatever mood I was in disappeared. "I need to take this," I murmured, already walking toward the restroom. Derek looked confused, but Joan simply nodded and let me go. "Hello," I answered, my voice cautious. "Hi, sweetie." My mother's voice was soft and familiar. My stomach twisted. The alcohol buzz faded quickly. "Hi, Mom," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "How are you, baby?" She always asked. But deep down, I knew why she called. I always knew. Still, some part of me clung to the hope that maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. "How much do you need, Mom?" I bit down hard on the inside of my cheek, holding back the frustration and the tears. "Just $200, she said quickly. "Just to get by. I'm working on a new project. This one's really going to work out, I promise." My eyes stung. I knew what the money was for. I knew I was enabling her. But her voice, it still got to me. "I'll transfer it tomorrow," I said quietly. "Thank you, baby. You know you mean the world to me. I love you." "Always," I whispered before ending the call. I stood in front of the restroom mirror for a while, letting the silence settle over me. My eyes were red and puffy. I splashed some water on my face and took a deep breath before heading back out. Derek was picking songs on the jukebox, and Tully had started closing out the register. As usual, he didn't charge us for the last round. That was just how Tully was. "You okay?" Joan asked, her tone softer this time. I gave a stiff nod. "More shots?" I offered, almost as a peace treaty. She didn't say anything, just poured another round and handed me a glass. The next thing I felt was buzzing, right next to my head. Then again. And again. I groaned, reaching under my pillow to grab my phone. The screen's brightness hit me like a truck. Who on earth was calling this early on my work phone? "What?" I muttered. "Where the heck are you?" a sharp voice demanded. I winced. That voice. Not what I wanted to hear first thing in the morning. "Mr. Ivanov, it's 7 a.m., I mumbled. "I don't start until 8:30. "You start at 7 from now on. You get off at 4:30, if it's a good day. If not, you leave when I say you can leave. Now get here. Quickly." I groaned again, forcing myself to sit up, my blanket clinging to me like a safety net. "And Alexander?" he added. "Yes. Bring me a large coffee. 2 sugars. 1 creamer." The call ended. I tossed the phone toward my nightstand and accidentally knocked over my alarm clock and glass of water. The glass shattered across the floor. Christian's POV. I knew the moment Alex stepped onto the 5th floor. He was hungover. But that wasn't all. He looked off. He set my coffee down on the desk without a word and avoided eye contact completely. His eyes looked irritated, maybe from allergies? Or something else. "Alex?" I called before he could leave. He turned slowly, almost reluctantly. "From now on, your office is right across from mine," I said, pointing to the door beside me. "I'll have your things transferred." "All right," he replied with a simple nod. "Go check on him." "I already did." "Check again." "Christian," Brad said with a sigh, "give the guy a break. He's working on the computer you practically destroyed when you kicked it over with your size 13 Stefani beamers." I rubbed my temples. "This obsession you have with the new assistant is a little unusual," Brad added. He wasn't wrong. I wasn't sure why I cared so much. Maybe it was just his energy. Something about him had thrown me off since this morning. "Have you thought about the Maverick Core pitch?" Brad asked. "They want a meeting in New York in a few weeks. You'll need a solid presentation." I forgot about that. "Schedule it for 3 weeks from now. That should give me time to prep, including the gala projections." Brad nodded and began typing the details into his iPad. We sat in silence for a moment before he broke it again. "Go check on him yourself." I grabbed something from my drawer and made my way to Alex's office. Just like Brad said, he was working quietly, fixing the computer with a small screwdriver in hand. I walked in and, without saying a word, turned his chair around to face me. He looked up, surprised. 1 minute he was hunched over the laptop. The next he was face to face with me, completely caught off guard. "Christian's POV. What's going on?" Alex asked, his voice slipping back into that uneven tone I remembered from our first meeting. It might have been because I startled him. Or maybe it was because my face was now less than a foot away from his, and he had nowhere to look but straight at me. His breath caught from the closeness. I didn't speak. Instead, I lifted my hands to adjust his shirt collar. Up close, I noticed the redness around his eyes had faded a bit, but he still looked tired, worn down. "Who goes out for drinks on a Wednesday night?" I asked with a raised brow. "Someone who works for you, apparently," he muttered under his breath. I smirked. "Well, that made twice this week he'd shown up looking worse for wear." "What's that?" he asked, eyeing something I pulled from my pocket. "You act like you've never seen a tie before. And considering you've managed to avoid wearing one both days, maybe you really haven't." I slipped the long strip of fabric around his neck and under the collar, then started to tie it. "Ties are optional for your IT position, I know," I cut in. "But you're not just our IT guy anymore. You're Christian Ivanov's assistant now." His cheeks turned bright red. I could tell the words hit him hard. "I didn't mean," he started, flustered. I raised a hand to stop him as I tightened the knot with a quick pull. "We're past that. I came in here to talk about something else anyway." He blinked. "You mentioned the importance of communication, that my people build the company, and I close the deals. Well, I've got a major one coming up. Mavericks Corporation. I'll need your help preparing the pitch, the data, everything. We need to make an offer so good, they can't turn it down." Alex's eyes widened in surprise. "We're working with Mavericks? Seriously? They own half the surf wear and fitness market. I toured one of their corporate buildings once and the tech." "All right, slow down," I said, amused. "Less geeking out, more typing. Grab the spare laptop in my office and let's get to it." He nodded quickly, and for the first time in days, the light in his eyes returned. You couldn't always see it behind his glasses, but up close, it was there. We got so caught up in spreadsheets and strategy, we didn't even hear the door swing open. "Baby!" Bridget's voice cut through the quiet like a siren. Startled, I bumped my elbow into my coffee cup, knocking it over, right onto our freshly printed paperwork. "Seriously?" I muttered, grabbing napkins while Alex rushed to get the electronics out of the way. "This explains what happened to the last laptop," he mumbled while wiping down the table. Bridget had given me a near heart attack. "What are you doing here, Bridget?" I asked, trying to keep my cool. She stood there in a cloud of perfume, her hair now platinum blonde and her entire look noticeably more exaggerated than before. I thought she wasn't supposed to be back from Paris for a few more days. "I wanted to surprise my baby," she said cheerily. "Fashion week ended early because of some incident, so I flew back." She wore far too much makeup and far too little of everything else. I glanced at Alex and instantly regretted it. He was barely holding in a laugh. This kid was really enjoying the show. Bridget, I'm working. I can't do this right now. Oh, that's fine. I just wanted to see if I could borrow a little something. Allison and I are seeing a movie, and I may have maxed out my cards in Paris. I blinked. You already maxed everything I gave you? Well, yeah. I was with Allison. I couldn't let her outshop me. Alex's shoulders twitched. I could tell he was seconds from bursting out laughing. Of course, I muttered under my breath, pulling out my wallet. I handed her a few bills. Thanks, babe, she said brightly, kissing my cheek before skipping out the door as fast as she came in. And that's when Alex lost it. I could barely make out his words between the laughter. Was she seeing a movie or buying the entire theater? You just gave her like $600. Movie means shopping. Shopping means nails. Nails mean dinner. It adds up. Alex looked at me like I was from another planet. "'Tis something else," he said, wiping a tear from the corner of his eye. I cracked a grin. Yeah, something else was one way to put it. What do you have for the gala projections? I asked, trying to bring us back to focus. He flipped his screen around to show me the graphs he'd created. I raised an eyebrow. He'd made a full breakdown using column bar graphs to compare previous gala performances and a Meko chart for demographic-based targeting. This is really solid data work, I said, genuinely impressed. Alex looked down, suddenly awkward. It was like he wasn't used to being recognized for what he did. Maybe that was common in IT, quietly keeping things running behind the scenes. Honestly, I didn't even know we had an IT guy before him. We had gotten so into the numbers, I hadn't realized it was already close to 5 in the evening. I hadn't thought about food until I heard his stomach growl. Did you eat lunch? I asked. He shook his head. I thought you stepped out to grab something when I did. No, I stayed to finish the layout, he said, almost sheepishly. Well then, I said, standing up, let's order something. Christian's POV. This doesn't even come close to Eddie Chang's, Alex sighed. He'd been pushing his chicken Alfredo around the plate for the past 30 minutes. Correction, a very expensive chicken Alfredo. You know that meal costs more than what you probably make in a day, I said casually. Alex just made a face of disapproval and nudged the plate aside. Unbelievable. I didn't even realize it's already 6:30 p.m., Alex noted, glancing at the clock on the wall. I checked my watch. He was right. We'd been working nonstop all day. I rarely ever lost track of time like this. He looked up at me, pulling those big puppy dog eyes that clearly meant he was pleading to leave. I tried to resist, but caved almost immediately. You can go, I said with a nod. Just don't forget to stop by my place early tomorrow to pick up my dry cleaning. Alex's smile instantly flipped into a frown. I'm starting to think being an assistant is suspiciously close to being a personal servant, he muttered. I let out a quiet laugh. If only he knew, this was the first time I had ever ordered food for an assistant, let alone spent an entire day working this closely with one. Honestly, I was already treating him better than anyone else I'd hired before. Alex's POV. I wasn't sure how I'd ended up standing in front of what looked like a modern-day castle the next morning, but here I was, staring up at the gates of what could only be described as an estate. Correction, a mansion. Good morning, sir. I assume you're here for Mr. Ivanov's clothing, said a voice behind me. I flinched. The sudden sound had completely snapped me out of my thoughts. A well-dressed man approached and extended a hand for me to shake. I'm Nathaniel, the caretaker. Right this way. Without waiting, he turned and began walking. I followed. We climbed a series of stairs that led to more stairs, passing a massive fountain that looked like something out of a movie. There were about 4 sleek cars parked in front of the open garage. Could I name any of them? Did they all look more valuable than everything I owned combined? Absolutely. At some point, it didn't feel like a home anymore. It felt like an entirely different category of living. Estate? Palace? Fortress? I wasn't sure. Please mind your step here, Nathaniel cautioned. The stone is still a bit loose from the weekly renovations. Weekly renovations? I nodded like I completely understood. Meanwhile, I was still using a gas stove that probably belonged in a museum. The clothing is hanging in that smaller closet, he continued, pointing ahead. The instructions are on the tag, and there's a pass included, so you won't be charged for the service. Nathaniel kept talking, but I was barely listening. It was hard to focus with the house practically shouting wealth at me. Marble floors, glimmering chandeliers, and ceilings that could hold echoes. I wouldn't be surprised if Mr. Ivanov had a pet tiger chilling outside next to an artificial waterfall. Mr. Hamilton? Nathaniel called, pulling me out of my thoughts for the second time. Sorry, I mumbled, heading toward the closet door he'd indicated. Except, this wasn't a closet. This was a room. No, an entire boutique. Christian Ivanov had more suits, jackets, and shirts lined up than some department stores. On the other side were drawers full of ties, watches, and accessories. When I finally located the dry cleaning section, it felt like I had walked into a designer showroom. Each item was suspiciously heavy, and several still had tags on them. Why dry clean something that hadn't even been worn? Some people care about keeping things fresh, came a voice from the doorway. I jumped so hard I dropped everything I was holding. The mountain of clothes collapsed onto the pristine floor. I looked up, and there he was, Christian Ivanov, wearing a loose t-shirt and casual sweatpants. Words failed me. No, literally. I tried to speak, but the only thing that came out was a squeak that sounded like a squirrel in distress. Christian raised an eyebrow. I couldn't tell if he was more concerned about the mess or the fact that I was just standing there, staring. In my defense, the clothes were already in plastic bags. They were fine. But he was the problem. Because for the first time, I saw Christian Ivanov not in a suit. And apparently, the man had tattoos. A full sleeve. Actual, honest-to-goodness ink across his arm. And I wasn't prepared for that. "You good, Hamilton?" he asked, clearly noticing my stunned silence. "Peachy," I managed to croak. "Great. Because you should have left with those clothes about 10 minutes ago. Also, why are you in work attire?" I blinked. "Wait, aren't we working today?" "I'm taking us on a field trip," he said casually. "Drop off the dry cleaning, then meet me at the office. We're something casual. Oh, and grab coffee. 2 sugars, 1 creamer." I nodded, trying to commit the list to memory. But truthfully, my mind was still back on the tattoos. "Look good. Really good. Can you stop staring and start moving?" Christian asked, stepping aside. "We're late. For pretty much everything." My body finally obeyed. I scooped the clothes back up, did a half-walk, half-jog out the front door, and exited the mansion with far more questions than answers. Alex's POV. Morning traffic was a nightmare. I gripped the wheel tightly as 2 massive semi-trucks boxed in my poor little Prius. I held my breath, trying not to panic. "Hang in there, baby," I whispered to my car. She'd been with me since college, through every move, every job, every stressful day. She deserved better than to be bullied on the road by 2 careless drivers. When I finally pulled into the dry cleaning lot, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Honestly, walking around with several $1,000s worth of suits in my backseat for longer than necessary had made me a little nervous. "Hi." A bubbly blonde behind the counter greeted me cheerfully the moment I stepped into the shop. Way too energetic for this early in the morning. "Hey," I replied with a polite smile, lacking at least 70% of her enthusiasm. "These are some very nice suits. Are they your dad's or something?" she asked as I dropped the heavy pile onto the counter. I shook my head. "They're actually my boss's." Her eyes widened as she scanned the designer labels. "Must be someone important to afford these brands. Are you his assistant?" "Something like that," I said with a nod. That was the end of the conversation. She hung the clothes carefully on the long conveyor system, scanned my pickup card, and sent me on my way, all expenses covered by a sleek black corporate card. I made a quick stop at Joe's bakery afterward. 1 cup of coffee for Mr. Ivanov, 2 sugars and a creamer. For myself, I got something far stronger, 2 espresso shots in a medium roast. Anything to help me stay awake. "Alex," Joan called out the moment I stepped onto the 3rd floor. Her smile quickly fell when she noticed my casual shirt and jeans. Oh no. He's been fired, Derek whispered dramatically. Joan clutched her heart like we were in some kind of office soap opera. You poor thing, she said softly. I rolled my eyes. I'm running errands with Mr. Ivanov today. I'm not completely sure, to be honest. They both sighed in relief and reached for the coffees in the drink tray before I could stop them. Those aren't too late. This is great, Alex. Thank you. Joan smiled as she sipped. Derek, on the other hand, gagged after his first sip. This is insanely strong. What is this? That was supposed to be my coffee, I muttered, shooting him a look. Joan's expression suddenly changed. Wait, does that mean this one is for Mr. Ivanov? I nodded slowly. She froze. Why didn't you say anything? I tried to, I sighed. Do you think he'll notice? Joan glanced at the lipstick mark now stamped on the rim of the cup. The lipstick? Oh no. Yeah, I said. I think he'll notice. But don't worry, I'll grab a fresh one before we head out. That was the last thing I said before heading up to the 5th floor. Christian greeted me the moment the elevator doors opened. What took you so long? He asked, clearly unimpressed. Charming as always. City traffic, I replied dryly. His usual tattoos were hidden beneath a long-sleeved cotton shirt and khakis. The casual look threw me off. He almost looked like a different person. Let's head out, Brad said as he joined us. That surprised me, since he was still in full suit and tie. I followed them silently as they led me to a part of the building I didn't even know existed. Turns out, there was another private elevator on that floor, one that bypassed all the others and opened into an underground parking garage. Since when did we have this? Where was this magical place last year during the hailstorm that dented everyone's car, including my poor Prius? We'll take one of the company vehicles, Brad explained. Where are we heading? I asked Mr. Ivanov. He shrugged. To see an old friend of mine. He's launching a new line of camping gear under Ivanov Corporation. We're going to congratulate him personally. Brad led us to a row of sleek black BMWs parked along the back wall. These are all company cars? Yeah, Brad replied. But we rarely use them. I stared at both of them in disbelief. Where were these cars when my own broke down mid-errand? How was I just now finding out about all this after years of working here? Christian and Brad took the front seats. I slid into the back, feeling like a kid on a school field trip with two overly formal chaperones. Even in silence, Christian's presence was intimidating. He had that kind of quiet authority that made people take notice. The kind of power that didn't need to be announced, it just was. What struck me even more, though, was how alike Brad and Christian seemed. Their mannerisms mirrored each other, right down to how they both adjusted the AC dials and gave each other an oddly synchronized chuckle. Something told me Brad was more than just the company's legal advisor. And I had a feeling I was about to find out why. Alex's POV. My vision was starting to blur. That cognac had finally kicked in, and suddenly everything around me felt about 40 times more intense and more terrifying. I dipped 2 fingers into the muddy water I had made and smeared streaks under my eyes. I'd seen this in action movies. It was supposed to make you look like you knew what you were doing in the wilderness, right? Then I heard something snap a few hundred feet away. Every hair on my arm stood on end. 12 hours earlier, we pulled up a long, winding driveway that led to a beautiful home. I had no idea where we were exactly, but based on the 30-minute drive, we hadn't left the city completely. Maybe just the next town over. The house was nothing like Christian's. It wasn't flashy or over the top, but it had an elegant, vintage charm. Victorian style with just the right touch of modern updates. I was too busy staring to keep walking, so Christian nudged me forward with a box of Remy Martin Louis XIII cognac. Yes, you read that right, a $7,000 bottle of liquor. You don't really realize how much poverty humbles you until you're being guided along by something more expensive than your entire bank account. Hurry up, will you? You're dragging your feet, Christian said sharply. I rolled my eyes the moment he looked away. Classic. Before we reached the door, it swung open. Christian, a man called out with a wide smile. Miles. Christian replied and sped up to greet him in a one-armed hug. Man, it's been ages. I couldn't focus on the guy, Miles, because I was still stuck on the fact that Christian Ivanov had laughed. Like actually laughed. It sounded so foreign I almost didn't believe it came from him. Nice to see you again, Brad, Miles said with a grin. Brad, unsurprisingly, responded with a nod and his usual unreadable expression. Then his eyes found me. I straightened my posture. Hello. I'm Alex, Mr. Ivanov's assistant, I said professionally, offering a handshake. Instead of shaking it, he pulled me into a hug. Pleasure to meet you, Alex. I'm Miles. He smelled good. Christian cleared his throat, and Miles finally stepped back. Come in, Miles said warmly. Let me show you what I've got lined up for the release. Even as he chatted with Christian and Brad, I couldn't help but feel his eyes still occasionally flick back to me. These are amazing, I murmured more to myself than to anyone else in the room. We were in Miles's study, looking through the new line of outdoor products he was about to release. The designs were sleek, neutral-toned, and the engraved leather logo gave them a polished finish. The camping tents looked super sturdy, definitely built to handle tough weather. You've got that look on your face, Miles, Christian teased. Miles chuckled. Well, I was just thinking. We could take a few quick promo shots here, or we could head out and actually test the gear tonight. Get real action shots. What do you say, Christian? Like old times? I blinked in confusion. What? Then I slowly turned to Christian, who was calmly sipping his coffee. Brad, Miles, and I had opened the cognac, but Christian had stuck to his usual cup of coffee. He took a pause, which didn't surprise me. Christian was always dramatic like that. Let's do it, he finally said. I can't go camping. I stammered. Are you serious? You're going. That's final, Christian said without missing a beat. No, you don't understand. I don't do camping. I don't do outside. I don't do nature. I'm a nerd, okay? I'm allergic to like 70 things out there. This is not a good idea. It's just one night, Alex, Christian said calmly. It'll help you get a better feel for the company. And besides, we're supposed to be pushing each other's boundaries, right? Let me push yours for once. He looked at me through the rearview mirror, and I couldn't hold his gaze for long. My cheeks burned as I looked away. I didn't miss the small, satisfied smile on his face. By the time we got to the site, I was so spaced out I had no idea how long we'd been driving. Christian had taken the wheel, thankfully, since Brad and I were a bit buzzed. The photographer and Miles followed in a second car, and we all arrived around the same time. Christian looked so comfortable in the outdoors, it actually startled me. I never imagined him as the camping type. Brad and I, on the other hand, looked like city dwellers who had taken a wrong turn into the forest. Picture an attorney in a full suit, slightly tipsy, trying to assemble a tent. It was comedy gold. I was shocked Brad hadn't complained yet. If you don't figure out how to put up your tent, you won't have a place to sleep, Christian called over his shoulder. Currently, I was in what I called supervisor mode. That meant I was pretending to be useful while hoping someone else figured it out. I had absolutely no clue what I was doing. This is actually great, Miles said, returning with the last of the supplies. Try using the instructions included in the tent bag. It'll help us test how user-friendly the design is. And Joel can get some great shots of you while you're at it. I gave a polite smile, grabbed the instruction sheet, and stared at the tent. Alex. Time to either impress everyone or completely embarrass yourself in front of this very nice man. Christian's POV. I kept stealing glances at Alex. We'd been out camping for a few hours now. The sun was starting to dip below the trees, painting the sky orange and gold, and Alex still hadn't finished setting up his tent. I don't know if I should be concerned or insulted that it's taken this long, Miles whispered beside me. I chuckled. He wasn't kidding when he said camping wasn't his thing. We both looked again at Alex, who was now fumbling with the poles like he was trying to solve a puzzle meant for geniuses. I'll admit it, I was intrigued. Alex intrigued me. At work, he was sharp, on point, efficient, focused. But out here? He was completely out of his element. Couldn't even hammer a stake into the ground. Let's just say, if we ever found ourselves in a zombie apocalypse, I had a pretty good idea of who not to count on for survival. "This is just sad," Brad muttered as he finally stood and made his way toward Alex. Alex's face lit up when he saw someone coming to help him. Honestly, I was surprised Brad was the one to move. Usually, he preferred to stay on the sidelines. I knew Miles wouldn't lift a finger unless I told him to. But Brad? He rarely showed that much interest in anyone. Alex was starting to look a little flushed from the drinks he'd had. His movements were still steady, but every now and then he'd stumble and accidentally bump into Brad. Brad looked mildly irritated, but not that irritated. And for some reason, that irritated me. The group finally settled in for the evening. Joel had left after we snapped a few group pictures, so it was just Alex, Brad, Miles, and me. I looked around the camp and frowned. "Where's Alex?" I asked. Brad shrugged, but Miles spoke up. "He went to grab more firewood a little while ago. Now that you mention it, he's been gone a bit too long." Despite the chilly air, I felt a strange warmth in my chest. "Which direction did he go?" I asked, my concern probably more obvious than I meant it to be. Miles pointed to a narrow trail. I didn't stick around to hear anything else. I grabbed a flashlight and headed into the woods. Alex's POV. Note to self, never offer to gather firewood in a forest you don't know, especially if you get lost in a grocery store on a regular basis. I looked around for what felt like the millionth time in 10 minutes. Everything looked the same. Just trees. So many trees. I tripped over something, one of those invisible branches that horror movie characters always fall over, and face planted straight into the dirt. Lying there, covered in leaves and embarrassment, I had my first real drunk thought. Didn't soldiers in movies always smear mud on their faces for performance? Camouflage? Something? Sounded right. So, I scooped some dirt into my hand, added water from my canteen, and smeared 2 lines under my eyes. Totally looked the part now. Then I heard it, something snapping in the distance. My heart jumped. Could have been the drinks. Or maybe not. The snap came again. Closer. My legs gave out, and I dropped to the ground like a leaf. This was exactly why I avoided the outdoors. My allergies were flaring, my face probably looked like a mess, and now I was stuck in a horror movie. More rustling. More snapping. A beam of light cut through the trees, shining directly on me. "Alex? Alex, can you hear me?" Christian's voice. It sounded different. Urgent. I'd never heard him like this before. "Oh, thank goodness," I whispered. I didn't want him to see me like this. Mud on my face, red eyes, trembling from either fear or cold or both. I stood, then stumbled. That's when we both noticed the cut on my knee. It was deep and bleeding. "You didn't feel that earlier?" Christian asked, his brow furrowed. He mumbled something under his breath. "Alexander Hamilton, I don't know if I've gained an assistant or just more responsibility." Despite the words, he knelt down in front of me. "Can you hop on my back? We're a couple miles out and you're not walking on that." I stared. "No, really, I'm fine. If we just slow down a bit. Get on my back, or I'm leaving you here." That was all it took. I climbed on, holding on awkwardly at first. He moved carefully, avoiding any pressure on my injured knee. I didn't wrap my arms around his neck right away. It felt too personal, but when he ducked under a low branch without warning, I learned my lesson. My face. I whined after the branch smacked me. He paused. "Sorry," then kept going. I found myself leaning into his warmth. It was a quiet battle with myself. I didn't want to get too close, but the alcohol made that harder to manage. I laid my head against his shoulder. He smelled like the woods, and something undeniably comforting. He tensed beneath me, just slightly. That was the last thing I remembered before everything faded into the warm, hazy blur of sleep. Christian's POV. We hadn't been walking long, but I could tell Alex was fading fast. He was caught between trying to stay awake and completely passing out. He didn't want to burden me any more than he already had, though honestly, he already had. A lot. It didn't take long before he stopped filtering his thoughts. "You smell like a tree," he mumbled against my neck. My hand instinctively tightened around his thigh as I carried him. I wanted to say the scent was probably just the alcohol. I really did. Just hang on. We're almost there, I said. I feel like a very small jelly bean in your hands. I cracked a smile. These glasses are making it very hard to lay my head flat, but without them, I wouldn't be able to see. Have you ever been in one of these? One of these what? Predicaments. I turned my head slightly, catching a glimpse of him from the corner of my eye. He looked half asleep, but every so often, slurred words still slipped out. We had just reached Brad and Miles when he finally passed out. Looks like you found the kid. What happened to his leg? Miles asked, concerned. Brad stepped out of his tent, eyeing Alex. Yeah, what happened to his knee? I raised an eyebrow. Last I checked, he was my assistant. Not sure why they were so invested. Just a scrape. I'll take care of it, I said quickly, brushing past them and guiding the half-sleeping Alex into my tent. I gently laid him on the mattress. As soon as he hit it, he stirred. Are we doing more shots? He mumbled. Not the kind you'll like, I muttered. Then I poured rubbing alcohol on his cut. That woke him up immediately and earned me a solid kick to the chest. Seriously, Alex, I groaned as he started thrashing around in pain. Ow, 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 he whimpered. I hushed him and gently applied some cooling ointment before wrapping his leg. He looked so miserable. I wanted to do more, but rest was probably the best option. Just as I started to move away, his hand grabbed mine. I looked down, then looked at him. His eyes were shut, but slowly opened. I reached over and took off his large-framed glasses. Without them, I could see his eyes clearly, really clearly. Will you? He paused, struggling to get the words out. Will you stay a little longer? The night is kinda creepy out here. I stared at him for a moment. Even now, he couldn't hold my gaze for more than a few seconds. Part of me liked that, how I could still make him nervous. Sure, I finally replied. He gave a small smile, but it faded quickly when I nudged him to the side. Whoa, I didn't mean. If I'm staying, I'm sleeping. Move over more, I said. He practically rolled to the very edge of the mattress. One wrong move and he would have fallen off. I let out a low chuckle and he stiffened. But no matter how far he scooted, I could still smell him. He smelled like roses. At some point during the night, I must have pulled him back toward the middle of the mattress. I woke up around 5:30 a.m. and realized just how close he'd gotten. The scent of Alex was everywhere. He had shifted closer in his sleep, though there was still an invisible line between us, a cautious distance. Yet being this close, I noticed things I hadn't before. 1. Alex had really long, thick eyelashes that framed his eyes. 2. He had allergies. Bad ones. Alex, I nudged him gently. He tried to open his eyes, but they were puffy, barely more than slits. Christian, he mumbled. What's wrong with my face? I think your allergies flared up, I replied. His hands flew to his cheeks, checking himself in a panic. I can't even tell where my eyelids end and my cheeks start, he whispered. I couldn't help but smirk. Alex was the first one in the company car while Brad and I packed up the rest of the gear. This was amazing, Miles, I said. Sturdy, practical, and sleek. The customers are going to love this. Miles beamed. Let's hope your customers are a little more coordinated than Alex, Brad joked. Alex pulled his hood over his head like he wanted to disappear. I gave Brad a look that said, enough. My assistant's confidence had taken enough of a hit already. As we drove off, Alex sat quietly in the back seat, looking out the window. Can we agree to never bring me on another camping trip again? He muttered. I think you did great. As for the allergies, I thought you were joking. I didn't know you'd actually puff up overnight like a cartoon. Alex gave me a half-hearted glare through the rearview mirror. I'll have you know, this is perfectly normal. Lots of people are allergic to pollen, and grass, and dust mites, and cats, and specific kinds of tree bark. Oxygen too? I teased. He looked back out the window in annoyed silence, but I saw the smallest grin tugging at the corners of his mouth. Alex's POV. The next 2 days were awful. What did I bring back from the camping trip, you ask? Nature. I brought back the full force of the outdoors. And unfortunately, My allergy-prone, asthma-sensitive, low-immunity body could not handle the battle. So here I was, tucked in bed, tea in hand, maybe with a little splash of something extra for warmth, watching It's Always Sunny reruns and trying not to fall apart. Just as I cocooned myself in my blanket fortress, a knock echoed through my apartment. Of course, Derek and Joan barged in like they paid rent or something. We skipped work to tend to our dearest, most dramatic friend, Derek announced proudly to my empty living room. Yay, I replied, deadpan. Derek frowned at my sarcasm, and Joan wrinkled her nose as she took one look at me. You look awful. What happened? Did you try hugging a tree or something? Christian Ivanov took me camping, I said, voice flat. Their eyebrows shot up, synchronized like some sort of comedy duo. But why? He wanted to test out new gear for Ivanov Corp before it hits the market. Honestly, the stuff was cool. But it took me 4 hours to put up a tent. Then I accidentally got tipsy, got lost, and ended up passing out in his tent. I woke up looking like a tomato on steroids and totally confused. The last part one mumbled. Derek looked like his brain short-circuited. Oh, in his tent? And you? I really don't want to talk about it, I grumbled. What had started as an adventurous weekend had spiraled into something completely bizarre. How on earth do you get yourself into situations like this? Joan gasped, eyes wide. Before I could answer, Derek pointed at my bandaged leg. And what happened there? Nature, I sighed dramatically. Just nature. Now, please, my body is still deciding whether it wants to keep functioning. Can we stop pointing out how rough I look? They glanced at each other and finally nodded. Tell me how work's going, I asked, trying to steer the conversation elsewhere. Joan smiled, but not her usual warm, comforting smile. No, this was a guilty smile. A something might be happened at work kind of smile. I raised an eyebrow. What did you do? Nothing bad. Everything's fine, mostly, Joan said. Mostly? I repeated. Christian stopped by the 3rd floor today, she explained. He was looking for you. Said you weren't responding to his messages. I blinked. I told him I was taking a few sick days. I'm on approved time off. That's kind of how PTO works. Derek cleared his throat. About that, I don't think Christian Ivanov believes in PTO for personal assistance. Pretty sure your job is 24/7. That doesn't sound legal, I muttered as I grabbed my phone to check my inbox. There they were, a stream of unread emails. All from him. Subject, sick days? CC, Brad_Ritra at Ivanovko.inc. Dear Alex, I saw your email regarding time off. Please confirm this was a mistake. Christian Ivanov. That one was from yesterday morning. Subject, sick days? CC, Brad_Ritra at Ivanovko.inc. Dear Alex, please respond. Unless you've literally vanished, in which case I may need to confirm that myself. Christian Ivanov. There were more. I skimmed through them, heart pounding, until I saw the latest one, sent just 30 minutes ago. Subject, sick days? Sissy, I'm on my way. I hope you have a very convincing reason for ignoring me. Sent from my iPhone. I stared at my screen. My fingers froze midair. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. What is it? Derek asked. He's coming, I whispered. Christian Ivanov is coming here. As in, to my apartment. Why would he do that? Derek asked, confused. Joan still had that awkward smile on her face. I don't even know how he found my address. I hissed. Sweetie, it's in your company file, Joan said gently. And, if Christian is actually coming, it's time for us to not be here. Like, immediately. Joan grabbed her things in record time. Yeah, sorry mate. It was really nice knowing you, Derek added as he followed Joan out. You're not just going to abandon me. I started, but I stopped short. There he was. Christian Ivanov. Not 10 feet away. Impeccably dressed, laptop bag in hand, portfolio under one arm. Time froze. My phone nearly slipped from my hand. Derek and Joan stood frozen beside me, looking as spooked as I felt. Christian didn't even glance at them. His eyes locked onto mine immediately. And then, with that razor-sharp tone of his, he said, "That's funny. I figured you must have broken all your fingers or had both legs amputated. It was the only logical reason you'd go this long without replying. But look at that. Still standing. Still breathing." Christian's POV. "This guy really thinks I won't show up." I muttered under my breath. "Christian, I'm about 90% sure he hasn't even checked his emails," Brad replied from behind his laptop. "He logged his PTO as sick days, so let him rest." "Brad, we're in crunch time. The presentation is in just a few weeks. There's no room for sick days. And he's my assistant. What does a sick day even mean for him? That doesn't exist in our world." "You're being intense again," my mother cut in. I glanced up. She was seated perfectly in the chair across from my desk. Even in a casual chair, she sat like royalty, shoulders straight, legs crossed, tablet balanced elegantly, and a glass of wine resting lightly in her hand. One look at her brought back a few memories, mostly of her reminding Brad and me as kids that posture meant power. Slouching was unacceptable in her house. "Straight backs build strong minds," she used to say, right before correcting our form with a light tap, or not so light if we resisted. And here she was again, commanding the room without even trying. "What's with this assistant, anyway?" she asked, raising a brow. "Brad told me you hired your IT guy. That's unusual." "He's surprisingly adaptable," I said. "And he's been helping with the Mavericks deal. We've made good progress lately." "He's also fixing the computer Christian sort of destroyed," Brad chimed in. I shot him a glare, but he didn't even look up. "Christian." My mother's tone snapped sharply. "It was an accident," I explained. "The deal with Larrington didn't go as expected. I lost my cool. But the Mavericks deal will recover the losses." That got Brad's attention. His eyes met mine instantly, full of disbelief. He knew I was stretching the truth. "Don't lie to me," my mother said in a calm but chilling voice. "Your father may have stepped back, but he still checks the reports. Is this going to affect the company? Or the family?" I opened my mouth to answer, but she turned to Brad instead. "Tell me." Brad and I exchanged a silent glance. No matter how many people were in the room, my mother was always the center of gravity. "It's not irreversible," Brad said carefully. "But the Mavericks deal is crucial. Without it, the rest of this year could get difficult." My mother's eyes narrowed. "If you lose control again," she warned, "I'll take everything away. Every bit of this company. Show me you're capable of leading, not of dragging this business into the ground. If the Mavericks deal falls through, I'll ask your father to step in." The seriousness in her voice sent chills down my spine. I stared at the email draft on my screen, my 16th attempt at reaching Alex. I hoped he was just resting. But after my mother's visit, I couldn't afford to sit back and wait. Time was not on our side. No one wanted my father involved. Not even my mother. His decision to step back was the best thing for the company and our family. If he stepped in again, well, it wouldn't be good. Brad had sent me Alex's address not long after I left the office. I didn't expect him to live in a modest building like this. It wasn't run down, but it certainly didn't match the salary we offered. Maybe student loans or family obligations were draining him. That would explain why he accepted the raise so quickly. He probably didn't have much choice. I walked in with my laptop bag in one hand and our Mavericks portfolio in the other. No front desk. No staff. Not the kind of apartment building I was used to. At least the elevator worked. Apartment 324. Third floor. The building's layout was simple enough, and I quickly found the right wing. As I approached, I slowed to a stop. Two people were just leaving the apartment. I recognized them immediately. They were employees I had spoken to before about Alex's sudden absence. The woman, her name started with a J. Janice? Jamie? Jane? Something like that. I heard Alex speaking from inside, but the group froze the second they saw me approaching. The man's jaw practically dropped. No one spoke. The silence stretched long enough for me to take the lead. I looked past the two visitors and focused directly on Alex. "Well, this is surprising," I said calmly. Considering you've missed work and haven't answered any emails, I figured you'd broken both legs or maybe lost all your fingers. But here you are, completely intact. Alex looked stunned. Thanks for listening to today's BL story. If it made your heart skip a beat, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Only here on BL Stories, where love knows no limits.